Hi, this is Steve Gold for Real Time with Designers Day. Joining me is Fern Abrams of IPC. She is the Director of Government Relations and Environmental Policy. Thank you very much for stopping by.
My pleasure, Steve.
Busy week here at Apex and Expo.
Always.
What do you got going on?
Oh, tons of stuff. We have speakers in the PCB and EMS President's meeting that are addressing what's going on in Washington, the R&D tax credit, European regulations on REACH, full load of issues there today. I have committee meetings going on as we speak. I'm very efficient. I'm serving them right while I'm sitting here talking to you. Several of them at IPC 17.5X declaration standards, materials declaration, process chemicals declaration meeting throughout the week. Also, the EHS Steering Committee, the Government Relations Committee is holding an open forum tomorrow. And one that's gotten a lot of interest lately, the IPC JEDEC J Standard 709 limits for bromine and chlorine in flame retardants and polyvinyl chloride in low halogen electronic products.
Say it 10 times fast.
Oh God, no. They're meeting this afternoon to discuss comments on their recently validated standard.
You mentioned there's been a lot of talk about that standard. What's going on there? Why should viewers be interested in that? And what's been going back and forth?
Okay, well, it is a pretty controversial, attention-getting standard. There is a group that feels strongly that this is an important thing for IPC to do, and there's another group that probably feels, a smaller group that feels equally strongly that this is not an appropriate time for a standard. It is a cutting edge, some will say environmental issue, some will say marketing issue. It's not really clear. Certainly there have been comments made about the environmental bona fides of halogen from the perspective of IPC's 433 task group that has a white paper on this. It's not an environmental issue, it's a marketing issue. From my perspective and IPC's perspective, it doesn't really matter what's driving it. There are leading OEMs committed to bringing low halogen products to the market. They are demanding those products from their supply chain. And I think it's important that IPC in serving the industry work to promulgate standards. If you don't have standards, it doesn't, as some people would think, mean that the issue will go away. What it means is that each OEM will set their own standards, and instead of the supply chain having one standard to comply with, they'll have a handful of standards and they'll have to negotiate with each OEM. So from my perspective, this is the perfect time for IPC to be doing this. The issues, it's being introduced, these products are being brought to the marketplace, and our members can benefit from standardization.
You know, you mentioned OEMs are really pushing some of this. How much do the materials suppliers themselves, I mean, do they want a standard as well?
Some of them do. Some of them see the perspective of the benefit of having a standard. Some of this see this as a chance for, segmentation, market advantage. And I think some look at the science and say it's not really there and we would like this to go away. And that's a valid business perspective, but I just think I hate to say people are wrong, but I think they're wrong. I don't think the issue will go away. We don't have a standard. Like I said, the OEMs will still do it. And I think the other benefit of having a standard at IPC is our processes ensure supply chain involvement, that everybody has a fair say in it. If you get an OEM dictating standard to their supply chain, the suppliers aren't in a position then to comment or say anything. It's, yes, what can I do for you?
Right.
So I think that's a really important value add that IPC brings to the process, and that's why we're so committed to this standard despite the number of feathers it's ruffled.
Very briefly, I know there's another program you're working on, a Capitol Hill Day coming up.
Oh,
a little bit about that.
Big, important, very important for the industry. We have a new Congress, a new administration. For all the talk of stimulus and the importance of the economy, I was just talking to one of the CEOs of a PCB company who was saying every night he has to make his children leave the living room so he can turn on the news, because he is, a corporate CEO and they're being bashed in the news every day. I think it's important for people to remember that employers provide jobs, and if we want out of this recession, it's these companies here that need to succeed to provide those jobs, especially the small businesses. So we are holding a Capitol Hill Day the 6th and 7th of May. We've lined up a couple of speakers from the leadership. We're going to be lobbying on two very important issues: a permanent R&D tax credit. I don't have to tell you, Steve, how important technology is for this industry, how important it is for U.S. companies to stay on the cutting edge, and that R&D is the way that you do that. A permanent tax credit lets companies invest and get tax credit for that and plan for the future. The second issue we'll be lobbying on is the PCB executive agent. That's a going back several years, without going into too much detail, IPC brought to the DoD's attention the dwindling domestic PCB industry, the importance of keeping this industry vital and healthy to support DoD needs. As part of the outcome of that, the DoD has called for Congress has asked the DoD to appoint an executive agent to ensure PCB technology and supply, and so we are working to get that agent appointed and then to bring our issues to their attention. So those will be the two really important issues we'll be lobbying on in Capitol Hill Day. You know, I'm in Washington almost every day. I'm there to lobby for the industry, but I have to say it's not the same effect for a congressman to hear from an industry hack, if you will, like me. What they really need to hear from is their constituents, their voters, the one you dance with, the one that brought you.
Yep. And especially with all the small business talk now, we need to help small businesses. It'd be good for small businesses to show that.
Very important. I know for small business owners what an investment and an expense it is to be away from the office even for a day, but I can't emphasize how much dividends that pays off. We have a quote in our Capitol Hill Day brochure. Joe Hunter, the owner and president of Hunter Technology out in Santa Clara, said that he knows he needs to come to Washington. It's a long trip from California, and his business is very important to him, but he says, I need to go to Washington so I can go back to California, run my business, and know that my congressman has my back, knows what I need, and knows my issues. And then after they come, you know, we can follow up with letters, I can follow up with visits, but it's just not the same if they don't come and make that personal connection.
Right. And just to be clear, this isn't a Democrat-Republican thing. Like, I can't sit there and go, oh, I've got a Republican congressman, no worries. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I think if the previous administration taught us anything, Republican control is not always good for business, especially small business and manufacturing, are industries that I think have really been beleaguered and overlooked for a while. And, you know, the Democrats have control, but it's not full control. And it's going to take both parties working together, so they need to hear from everybody.
Well, Fern, I'm certainly glad I don't follow your schedule. It sounds pretty busy. Thanks very much for stopping by. I appreciate your time.
My pleasure.
Once again, this is Fern Abrams with IPC. I'm Steve Gold for Real Time with Designers Day. Thank you for joining us.